Happy New Year to you. I hope you've had a very peaceful and restful festive season. Yes, another year has gone by, and it's customary at this time of year, of course, to look back and to look ahead. So today on Dragon's Teeth, we're talking about the past, present, and future. Hi, I'm Rob Poyton. Thanks very much for joining me today for this look back at 2025 and even further than that, and a look ahead as to what might be in store for us in 2026. So, without any further ado, let's begin by going back to the past. This look back to the dim and distant 80s was prompted by a post that Paulie made on the Lace and Steel channel. She put up a review of a game called Flashing Blades. This was an RPG set in the time of the Three Musketeers. So a great swashbuckling game, as you might imagine, but also layered over with all that intrigue and daring do that is part of that genre as well. Really nice game system, not only in terms of combat, but adding in all those other elements. I ran a campaign of this in sort of mid to late 80s, and I remember it as being very enjoyable. We really had a good time with that. It is an old game, as I say. I think it was published in 1984 by Fantasy Games Unlimited, and it came with a core set in a box of the rules and some scenarios, and there were 4 supplements, I believe, as well. 3 of those were set in France and were based around courtly intrigue, skirmishes with the Cardinal's Guard, getting one over on them, all that sort of thing. We played through those, and then we segued into the 4th supplement, which was called High Seas, and that was full-on pirate adventure. So yeah, really great fun. Watching that review brought back just how good it was. It really captures the atmosphere and the spirit of that genre. The mechanics are really good. So if a swashbuckling game is what you're looking for, I would highly recommend Flashing Blades. I think it is still available up on DriveThru RPG and some other places, I'm sure. I did have all my old books of that. Alas, they disappeared along with many other things of the great sale of 2021, when I was really skint and had to sell a large box full of old gaming stuff. But there we go. And if you want to know more about Flashing Blades and other RPGs as well, I'll put a link below to Lace and Steel, Paulie's channel. Do go and check it out. So that's the dim and distant past, my murky past. Let's bring things up to date and take a look at 2025. 2025 has been a bit of a mixed bag, to be honest. I had 2 main issues that affected my output for the year. The first was Facebook deleting my profiles. Despite days or even what it seemed like weeks of uploading a photo to prove I was human, trying to get through to support and all the rest of it, my profiles all went. Along with, of course, everything I've posted over the last, I don't know, it must be 10, 15 years or something. All my posts, all my photos, every group that I had set up, everything was gone. This was doubly annoying because it was just at the time that we were starting to do the main promotion for the Innsmouth Literary Festival, which took place in September. So that really hit our ability to promote as well. And then just to add insult to injury, I had a Windows update come through in October. You know, you don't have much choice about these things, it seems. You're getting the update whether you want it or not. And that particular update totally screwed up my hard drive. Windows wouldn't load. So again, this was days going into weeks of trying all the various issues to fix this, check disk, scan disk, do this, do that. Eventually what I had to do was go back into DOS, which luckily I was trained on back in the Steam age, and I was able to transfer certainly most of my files from the hard drive onto an external hard drive. Then I had to reload Windows onto the old hard drive, which of course wiped everything on there. I think I got everything off, but you know, there's always that little lingering thing. And of course what it does mean is now I've uploaded Windows 10 again and it's running, I have to reinstall all my programs, I have to reinstall all my VSTs for my music programs and everything else. So it's a real pain. Luckily, I bought a new laptop a couple of months before that, so I've been able to use that to do all my video and music editing and all my writing. So it hasn't stopped me completely, but it has really slowed me down this year. And what I'm doing now, I've got Windows 10 up and running, but I'm thinking of maybe putting Linux. Is it Linux or Linux? I'm not sure. Maybe I'm going to load Linux onto that PC. Not something I've done before, so if anyone out there has any experience of that or any tips or could recommend it or otherwise, please do let me know in the comments below. I am also back on Facebook now as Bob Innsmouth, but I don't really trust it, so I'm having quite limited posting on there. I'm just putting up some news items, things about our podcast or videos as they come out, and that's pretty much it. And I'm not really taking the chance again of setting up large groups and getting loads of people in when it can just disappear overnight for no apparent reason. One thing I've done in its place is to set up the Innsmouth forum, which is just a good old-fashioned chat forum. I've got that up and running now. There's some people coming in and posting. That's where I'm going to be putting most of my stuff now, and hopefully there we can build up some good conversations and backs and forths about, well, not just weird fiction, but also gaming and videos and films, all sorts of stuff. So I'll put a link down below for that as well. Please do hop on over and join in the chat. And as if all that wasn't enough, I encountered some health issues later in the year, again starting in about October. Seems to have been a bit of a cursed month, October. I was hit with a perfect storm of pinched nerves in my neck and shoulder, a nasty chest infection and blood pressure issues, which all sort of hit at the same time. And of course, being self-employed, I couldn't stop working. So I had to continue working, which included a trip to France to run a 3-day workshop, which I somehow got through. Everything's on the up now, so it's been a bit of a long road to recovery, but at least over Christmas I've been able to have a good rest, so we're getting everything back on track. On the positive side, I was very pleased that we got We Want the Gold published just before Christmas. This is my first foray into gaming. Of course, I published a lot of non-fiction and fiction before. This is the first time I've put out anything specifically gaming related. I mentioned the Innsmouth Literary Festival 25. That went very well, had a cracking day despite the few problems that we had on the run-up. And we've already booked the same venue for next year for ILF 26. It's been a good year for gaming. I've got back into RPGing with the Rollmaster campaign on a Monday. Darren's been running that. Classic fantasy campaign. And then on Thursdays, we've been going over to Ovays to play Cult, modern horror. Really enjoying that as well, particularly because I don't have a clue about the lore and background. So I think in a horror game, it's always great when you're learning as your character does as well. So yeah, we're nearing the end of the campaign and we still don't have much of an idea of what's going on. We are slowly piecing things together, but from the look of it, I'm not really sure that we want to piece everything together anyway. As well as that, Bane Wars Part 2 started this year. That's rolling along very nicely. We're in the Christmas truce phase at the moment. Peace has broke out in the Bane Wars front. I think the elves and the orcs were last seen playing football in no man's land. It may have been with the dwarf's head, but I can't confirm or deny those rumours. As well as that, I got to play a few games of Starfleet Battles down at Bedford Gladiators. Ove put on some really great Western games with Fistful of Lead. Thoroughly enjoyed those. I also got a lot of figure painting done, both 10mm for my Bane Wars armies and 28mm, mostly fantasy skirmish, but some Cthulhuid Innsmouthian stuff as well, because I did my big Innsmouth build, of course, last year, which was one of the highlights, I like to think, at the ILF as well. We ran a game of We Want the Gold there set in Innsmouth, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was really enjoyable. Aside from that, I also got out of the cupboard and added to my World War II 1/300th stuff as well. Eastern Front Russian and German forces. I bought some more buildings, I bought some more tanks and infantry and other bits and pieces. And as you may have seen from an earlier upload, I even managed to get a copy of the Firefly rules that we played a lot of back in the day. Reading through them now, I'm thinking, how did we understand this back then? It seems so complex now, but we must have understood it. If I understood it once, I can understand it again, I hope. That's something I really want to get into in 2026. Speaking of which, let's go forward into the year ahead. I mentioned that the Cult campaign is coming to an end. That leaves an RPG shaped hole in my schedule. I'm looking at filling that with a Mothership campaign. And take a look over at the Mothership playlist to see how that's developing. I'm going to be using my own setting. I'm going to be tweaking the rules a little bit, but I have been gathering together a whole batch of scenarios and settings. And I have to say, what I'm seeing of Mothership and the way the scenarios are designed, it's looking really good. I'm really looking forward to getting that up and running. Now, I don't know yet whether I'm going to be doing that in person, because finding players is always the issue. I'll talk more about that in a moment. So it might mean that I move to online gaming. Never done it before, don't know what to expect. I'm open to all advice over, do you use Roll20, do you use Foundry, do you use Discord, all that kind of thing. I'm going to be researching that over the next few weeks. And at the same time, getting all these scenarios into some kind of order as well, and filling in the setting and the background. Yeah, finding players can be a challenge. There's a couple of things there, time and location, of course. Now, being part of Bedford Gladiators is great. It's a good club. There's a lot of people there. But of course, a lot of people means there's a lot of different games already going on. You're kind of spoilt for choice in a way. Bringing something new in, particularly if people haven't played it before, can be a bit of a challenge. The other problem I have is I teach my Tai Chi martial art classes. I'm teaching Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday evening. Now on a Monday I can get down to Bedford Gladiators from my class, which finishes at 7. So if I rush, I can get there sort of 20 past 7. But realistically, by the time you get in, sit down, set up, it's 7:30. It's difficult in those circumstances to come in and set up a game and start playing. If I'm playing in someone else's game, it's great. Normally all I have to do is pitch up with the figures or the character sheet and all that stuff, and we're ready to go. But of course, when you're running a game, whether that's tabletop or RPG, there's a certain amount of setup you have to factor into the time as well. So yeah, that makes it difficult. Really, Thursday evenings is the only one I have free at the moment, which we've largely been putting over to RPGs, OVAs. So I'm looking at other ways of finding players or getting people together. I've changed some things around in the shed now, so I do have space here to get a little group in. I mentioned online playing as well, and it could mean just looking at other venues at certain times and seeing if there's anyone really local. So Bedford Gladiators is obviously in Bedford. I'm up at the north end of the county, so I'm a little ways out. I've not really explored round here that much. I'm quite close to St Neots and Huntingdon and Rushden. There are other clubs around, but again, because they're all on those Tuesday evening, Wednesday evening and everything else, by the time I finish my class, I'm never going to get there. So I don't know, maybe I'll put some posts up on the local village groups, see if there's anyone else more local interested in gaming as well. We'll see how it pans out. And with those computer issues, that put a severe dent in my writing output for this year. I have my Queen of the Fens book, which is a sequel to Robert E. Howard's Worms of the Earth story. We're getting into final proofing stage now, but it's been delay after delay with all these issues. So I'm looking hopefully at getting that out February, March now. As far as new projects go, I've started a series based on the Bane Wars campaign. There was so much lore and good stuff happening in the game, I thought it's a shame not to use this. So that's going to be a series of 3 books as well. And Volume 1, Tomb of the Lich Queen, is already underway. I'm about halfway through writing that at the moment. So hopefully that's not going to take as long as Queen of the Fens. Maybe looking at a summer release for that one as well. So do keep an eye out for that, especially if you like your classic fantasy. We Want the Gold, I've already mentioned. We're looking at putting out a scenario book for that. And I'm also going to be working on a follow-up. So We Want the Gold is a fantasy setting. I'm going to bring it up into a horror setting as well. And that's going to cover 3 eras. So your 17th century, Witchfinders, that kind of time. Then into your classic Victorian and Gothic, of course. And then 20th century, which is going to have more than a hint of the Lovecraftian about it, I would imagine. So it's going to be the same base rules, but we're going to be adding in lots of things to the horror specific setting, of course, and lots of tentacled beasties and all the rest. And having published one gaming book, which hopefully will be well received, it's quite nerve-wracking when you put anything out. But, you know, non-fiction, I'm sure of my subjects. Fiction, you know, is okay, but putting out a gaming book comes with so many other things. Does the system work? Are all the numbers right? Are the rules clear? So it's been quite a steep learning curve on We Want the Gold. But having had a taste of it, I'm planning on bringing out some scenarios next year. I mentioned the Mothership scenarios, these trifold ones, A4 sheet, a whole scenario on 2 sides of A4, a masterpiece of design. So that has encouraged me to maybe look at doing something in the Mothership field. But also I want to put out some other scenarios as well. I'm a co-host of Strange Shadows podcast, which looks exclusively at the work of Clark Ashton Smith. I was thinking it might be great to bring out some Clark Ashton Smith themed fantasy scenarios. So set in Hyperborea, or set in Zothique or Averoigne. If you're a Clark Ashton Smith fan, you'll know what I mean. Very atmospheric, lots of interesting creatures. Yeah, it just seems made for a good fantasy RPG scenario. As well as all that writing, I want to try and get around to more conventions this year. I did Dragon Meet the year before last. In 2025, I did Chaosium.com. I did Concrete Cow. I want to see if I can get round to a few more. Partly for shopping, of course. Who can resist shopping? Partly to join in and play some other games, meet new people. But also maybe see if I can get some demo games going for We Want the Gold. That'll be very interesting. That's the first time I ever did that at the ILF, running a demo game like that. And I really enjoyed it. So I'll be very interested in doing some of that again in the year ahead. As for the channel, no major plans. I'm really pleased that we hit 500 subscribers this year. Let's see if we can get it to 1,000 next year. That would be fantastic. Of course, that's up to the viewers. And it really is, there's 2 things. For YouTube creators, the best thing you can do is click subscribe. It really is. For people who put out books or videos or films, then the best thing you can do is just leave a short review. Doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but a good review or a decent review on Amazon really goes a long way into helping the authors. And a huge thanks, of course, to everyone who has subscribed already, and to everyone who sent in comments and questions. We've had some great ideas and tips coming through on the comments this year, so thanks very much for that. Do keep it up, do keep them coming. That's it then for our look forward and our look back. Thanks very much for joining me. Of course, do let me know what sort of year you had and what you've got planned for the year ahead. What was your best game last year? What was your favourite game? Whether that's a rule system or a particular scenario or a particular battle you refought on the tabletop, I'll be very interested to hear. Is there anything coming up in 2026 that you're particularly looking forward to? New sets of rules coming out perhaps, or any films or TV series that are coming out? I know we've had a lot of things like The Witcher and those things recently on Netflix, which, yeah, well, that's another subject. But I'd be interested to know what you're looking forward to in the year ahead. Thanks for joining me again, and I'd like to wish you all a very healthy, happy and harmonious 2026. Cheers.